Welcome to another one of my videos. This is a main section video that needs to follow a warm-up, and this one concentrates around the middle area, the inner abdominals, outer abdominals and obliques. So for this I'm going to use a block underneath my head. You could use a cushion. If you manage to get into a neutral spine quite easily lying on your back, then you won't need one, but it's fine to have one. So I'm going to start by lying down with my head bolstered up on the block. So that could be your cushion. And I'm going to have my feet together, my knees together, and my heels close-ish into my hips. So hands down by my sides, and I just want to start by pelvic tilting, so just getting some movement into the lower back. So I'm pushing my lower back into the floor and then releasing and making a space under my lower back, and again down and up. So what you might feel as you carry on pelvic tilting is that when you lift and your lower back comes off the floor, your ribs lift. So try and keep your rib cage attached to the mat so that when you lift your lower back off, it's just a tilt in the pelvis, down and up. You can feel whether it really gets into the ribs because you'll feel your shoulders start to lift as well. So just try and make it just pelvic tilting. And then we want to stay with this area below our belly button. This hip bone, pubic bone area needs to be parallel to the floor. So we're trying to get it as flat as we can. And with our pelvis like that, we might have a small gap under our lower back, probably about that much, enough that you can slide your fingers just underneath. Get your ribs down. Take a big breath in and breathe a long, hard blow out of your mouth. And again, big breath in through your nose. And then out from your mouth. So carry on breathing like that, and on the breath out we want to feel our hip bones suck in towards each other, a little bit of a lift of our pelvic floor, a little bit of engagement round the hip to hip area. It doesn't need to be an actual tensing of anything, but it's a switching on and a solidifying of this pelvic area. So keep that solid feeling even when you breathe in. And then on the next out breath, we're going to do some knee drops. So the knee's going to go out to the side and come in. And the same knee is going to go out to the side and come in. And we're keeping the other leg nice and still. We're not pushing into the heel on the floor. We're not lifting the opposite hip off. After this one, let's change knees. So make sure this one's nice and still. Your hand on your hip can monitor it, and the other knee is going out and in. So well, I just called it a knee drop, but at no point do we actually lose it. So at no point can we not stop it. Okay, and now we're going to swap sides again. So how far you go is not it. It's how still and how connected you can keep the other side. So any perceptible lift or movement is a movement, so counts. Okay, and after this one we're going to swap sides again. So all you want to feel is underneath the opposite hand an engagement around that hip. So that inner abdominal is just controlling this leg. And we're going to do 4 more on each side after this. Lovely, and then the other side. Okay, and when the next leg comes in, let's just have a little moment, and then we're going to roll over onto our side. So I'm going to take the block or cushion out from under my head, so just pop it to one side, we'll use it later, and I'm going to stretch my bottom arm out along the mat. So if that's very uncomfortable, then you can have your head in your hands, but we're going to stretch out because we're trying to get lots of length. So it's easier to stretch, and you can get stretched down both sides of your body if you've got that bottom arm stretching out underneath you. And I'm going to take my top hand out and hold on to the wrist of it, or clasp my hands into a fist overhead. But again, if it's too wobbly, then you'll want this hand down, or you can just tentatively put it on the top thigh and just see, you know, how you feel there. Otherwise it's up overhead. And I'm stretching. And while I stretch, I want it to come from my waist, so I want to feel my waist lifting there off the mat. And I can see both of my feet, so they're not behind me, they're in line or even slightly in front. And then I'm going to lift and lower. And as I lift and lower, I'm trying not to get my waist to go nearer to the floor every time my legs go up. So the lift is coming from the whole length of my body. It's a whole elongation as I stretch out. So the lift comes with the stretch. Okay, we're going to hold both legs up now. Point the toes of them so they're nice and stretched and straight, and then we're going to leg scissor. So here I'm hovering on my hip bone, and this is a lot more wobbly, and I have to try harder to keep my balance. So how fast you do them is up to you, whatever you can manage while keeping your hips still. So imagine there's a skewer here going through your hip, and that is fixing it, keeping it still. Okay, let's do 2 more. And then bring your legs together and bring them down. And we're going to roll over back onto our back. But this time, we're going to put our hands behind our head. So we don't need anything underneath, because our hands can lift our head slightly. And I'm going to take my feet to hip width and parallel. So my heels are slightly wider than my toes. Elbows are wide, chin is tucked in, and I want to get my spine nice and long. And that gap underneath my lower back needs to come back again. I'm trying to take some weight off my feet, so I'm putting the weight of some of my legs into my pelvis rather than all of it into my feet, driving my heels down. So try to take some weight off. And then we're going to do knee lifts. But before we start, we're going to get that solid feeling in our pelvis again. So you take a big breath in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. And next time we breathe out, we're going to lift a leg up to tabletop. And then you breathe in when it's here, breathe out, and lift the other leg. Breathe in. Breathe in. So we're changing legs when we've got that very solid feeling at the end of the out breath. And now I'm going to add a bit of a twist. So now when a leg comes up, I'm going to come into an ab curl. So it comes up, and I'm going to lift my chest up towards that knee. And then head comes down, change legs. And lift. And change legs. And lift. And change legs. And lift. And I'm trying to keep all connected through the middle. Okay, now I'm going to add an oblique twist. So a leg comes up, I'm going to come up, and I'm going to turn my opposite shoulder towards that leg. And as I turn towards it, that leg is going to extend. It doesn't need to go out, down along the floor, just in a nice diagonal with my thighs in line is fine. And then that knee comes in, I turn towards it, head down, and swap legs. So up, curl up, turn, stretch out, knee in, turn towards it, and then let your head come down before you swap legs. So I'm doing it nice and slowly so that I can make sure that my hips aren't twisting. So I'm trying to keep my knees in line. So this is a single leg, my single leg version of crisscross. So you can carry on doing this, or we're going to do a double leg version. So I'm going to bring one leg up to tabletop and then the other. And my knees are trying to be vertical over my hips. If that's very uncomfortable on your back, then bring them in slightly. Calves are parallel to the floor. And I want to feel that there's some effort keeping my legs up in the air, but it's not a massive strain on my back. So if it is, then you need to go back to the one-legged version. Otherwise, we're going to keep your knees hip width apart and your heels in line, and your knees never come nearer to you than where you now have them. So keep them as they are. Take a big breath, curl up, oblique twist towards the leg, and now the leg that you haven't turned towards is going to extend. And this leg doesn't come towards you. And then bring that leg in, turn towards them both. You can keep your head up if you can, if you want to, if you're up for it. Turn around to the other leg and stretch it out. And we're in and out. And we breathe in, out. So that knee coming in towards you as you turn towards it would show a twisting hips and a twisting pelvis. So try and keep it absolutely still so the extending side stays hip width apart to the other leg. Okay, let's do 2 more on each side. And now I'm going to lower my head down and bring my knees into my chest. So if you were doing the single leg version, then same thing. You can bring one leg in and then the other. Hold onto your calves and just have a little roll about on your lower back, just to loosen out your lower back, and take some big breaths. So with curl ups, breath tends to get quite shallow. So now you might feel like you just need to get some of your breath back. And we're going to do leg lifts on the other side now. So you could just turn over the other way, but I'm going to swivel around so that I can still face the camera. So I'm going to lie out over my bottom arm again, and I'm stretching. And I'm stretching both legs out, and I'm going to take my top arm up overhead. And we'll check that I can see my feet, so my ribs are connected to my pelvis. And then I'm going to take what length I have and try and increase it so I get a lift out of it. So it's stretching out. You need to be able to clear that bottom thigh off the floor so your knees aren't bending, and it is a stretch always. Try not to make the top leg passive either. Try and keep the top leg, rather than sitting on your bottom leg, they're sticking together, but the top leg's also stretching out and lifting. Okay, and after this one, we're going to leave both legs up, stretched, point the toes, and we scissor. So now you started the scissor, you might feel like you need the top hand just to stabilize, because we want to keep as still as possible from the hips up. Here's the pivot of our scissors, and nothing's happening in this upper part. Lovely. And then let's bring both legs together, and we're going to lower them down, and we're going to roll over onto all fours. So in all fours, I'm going to tuck my toes under, draw my shoulders down away from my ears, extend my spine. So imagine someone's pulling my tailbone and then pulling the crown of my head out and pushing my shoulders down my back. So my neck's nice and long. And I'm just going to pelvic tilt here. So I just want to get some movement into the lower part of my spine, that part of the spine that's often very, very stiff in a lot of people. We're often very good at moving our middle back and less so the lower back. And I should be able to feel my pelvic floor engage as I do this. And my belly button's just slightly pulled in, so I've just got some switching on of the abdominals. Okay, and then Once I've got that movement back into my lower back, I'm going to take one leg out and then the other and come down onto my front with my elbows underneath my shoulders. So just move that out of the way. Toes can be tucked under or flat. We're going to come up into a plank, but what sort of plank you do is up to you. You really want to stay within your boundaries of comfort for a plank. So obviously if you're tight in the shoulders or sore in the shoulders or elbows, that will limit the length of time of your plank or how long you do it for or what sort of plank you do. Also comfort in the back. So as soon as you feel your abdominals switch off and your back work, then you want to come down from the plank. Okay, so we're going to start with our shoulders down, so our neck is nice and long. Try and have looseness in your neck. And then I'm going to push my elbows into the floor so that it starts to push my chest away from the floor. So I'm arching my upper back by pressing my elbows in. And I'm going to keep pressing until I've got my rib cage off the floor. And then I'm going to keep pressing until my rib cage brings my hips up. So now I'm in a half plank position, more or less. I seem quite sloped down, but I'm pressing my elbows in to keep my rib cage as lifted as possible, and my rib cage on my tummy side is closing the gap down towards my pelvis as much as possible. Okay, so we can now just release the effort into the elbows just to bring your ribs down, which brings your hips down. So just think of it as a rib movement, a shoulder movement, rather than your hips. The hips just follow. And you can have a rest and just go up and down from there. Or we're going to take it further in the next one. So I'm going to press into my elbows, push my chest away from the floor, keep pressing so my ribs come up, keep pressing so my hips come up, and here we're going to sway. So I'm just swaying my hips, so as if my pelvis is just moving along a shelf, just to feel that I'm getting the same effort out of each side of my abs. And then I'm going to stop in the middle, and now you can come down or tuck your toes and just straighten out your legs so your knees just lift there. And again, keep pressing your elbows in, arching your upper back. So every time you feel like it's not in your tummy, it's in your back, give that a go. If it's too much, then you come down. So an extension here, I'm going to keep my hips where they are and stack one foot on top of the other. So your feet are pigeon feet walking into the floor. Big breath, change feet. Again, pressing in, keeping that lift. Big breath, put that foot down. Let's hold it for another couple of breaths. And then I'm going to lower my knees down, flatten out my feet, and then take the effort out of the ribs and out of the shoulders so my hips come down, and so do my ribs. Hands go underneath your shoulders and slide your hips back. So we just go into a child's pose just for a rest. And you might feel here you want to shrug your shoulders, move them in circles. If your hands are down to your heels, you can move them a little bit better, but just get some movement into the shoulder if you felt that that area was getting very stiff. And we're going to go into all fours again. Toes tucked, unless that's very uncomfortable. Wide upper back, bit of a bend in each elbow. You can be on your elbows if you prefer not to be on your wrists. And we're going to pelvic tilt again. So drawing your belly button in to tuck under, keeping a slight pull of your belly button in, even when you drop your lower back to the floor. So our tailbone's tucking under, tailbone lifting. Under, lift. Trying not to get much movement into the rest of your back. Okay, so that's loosened up the lower back slightly. Now we're going to keep our back in neutral, so tailbone is lifted, and we've got an arch in the lower back, ribs are lifted, and I'm going to side bend. So I call this tail wagging, but it's anything. We're going to lift a foot off the floor, but then leave the knee down on the floor, and then take the foot out to the side by pivoting on the knee, and have a look at that foot over your shoulder. So you're in a side bend, all fours, but a side bend stretching through the waist. And then swivel on the knee, look at it over your other shoulder. And again, out to the other side, and back again. So hold it at each side bend, and just try and see a bit more foot. So you're going into a bit more of a bend every time you swivel. Let's do one more on each side. And then put that foot down and lift the other. Take it out to the side, look at it over that shoulder. Swivel on the knee, look at it over the other shoulder. Okay, and again. So to get strength in our abdominals, we need flexibility in our abdominals. And generally, we're very tight in our waist muscles, in our obliques, due to far too much sitting. So we need to get flexibility in them. So any sort of side bend or spine twist is essential. So now I'm going to put that foot down, and I'm going to come up to a high kneeling position. But if that's too uncomfortable for you, you can sit down on your haunches. And we're going to spine twist here. So I'm going to take my arms out. Hips are pressed forward, so I'm trying to keep them nice and still. And that press forward gives me a squeeze in each glute, so it keeps my hips nice and square. And I'm going to spine twist. So I go as far as I can round one way, keeping my hip bones from moving with me. So my hip bones are locked forward, a bit of a squeeze in each glute. Shoulders are down. And then let's twist round the other way. And then again, and this time we're going to go as far as you can, and then wrap your arms around you. So as if you're giving yourself a hug. One arm behind you, the other one round your waist, and just see with a breath if you can get a little bit further round. And again, we'll do one more breath, and just try and get yourself just a little bit further round. Hips pushed forward. Okay, then arms come out, and go right round the other way. And then wrap, and take a breath, and on the breath out, see if you can get your shoulders to go further round relative to your hips. And again, and then let's take our arms out and come back round to face your screen, and your arms come up, and we'll just give a little side bend each way. And the other. Lovely.